The Muslims have defeated the Persians under Umar radiallahu anhu. They are cutting in the heart of the Byzantines now, where they've cut up the territories of the Roman Empire. And Jerusalem in particular, Al-Quds, is now under siege from all directions.
The Romans have largely abandoned it, but there's enough people manning the walls that you can't get in. So the Arab army is stuck outside, trying to figure out how to get inside so they can capture this holy city.
But they don't want to spill blood in Al-Quds.
The Archbishop of Jerusalem, a man named Sophronius, by the way, a Christian Arab, a loyal Roman citizen, indicates he's willing to negotiate, but only with Umar ibn Khattab, the caliph.
He said, the one who is spoken about in our scripture should come and assume what is rightfully attributed to him. And what that means is that Ka'b ibn al-Ahbar radiallahu ta'ala anhu became a Muslim. He was a Jewish rabbi that would become Muslim later. He said that in the scriptures, it was said that the follower of the Prophet to come would take the keys of Jerusalem with patched garments and high ethics. So Sophronius interpreted that to be Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, rightfully so. He said, send the one about whom we hear about his justice, and we'll give him the keys.
Well, the caliph is all the way back in Mecca. It'll be weeks before he can be sent for and then return. So they come up with a scheme. And the scheme is, since Khalid is Umar ibn Khattab's first cousin, he actually looks like him. So they pretend Khalid ibn Walid is the caliph. They meet with Sophronius.
Sophronius didn't fall for it. The Byzantines didn't fall for it.
So now the Arabs are stuck getting the caliph.
So Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu was placed in charge of Al-Madinah by Umar radiallahu anhu, and Umar radiallahu anhu makes his way out to Jerusalem. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu decides to make this entire journey, the man who would sleep out in the open on his shoes, with one camel and one servant, and no army with him. And I want you to imagine the description of how he looked. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not wear a turban. Umar radiallahu anhu did not wear a helmet. So his head was bare. The garment that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was wearing was a white garment, and it had 17 patches on it. He has absolutely nothing to suggest royalty. The most powerful man in the world takes a trip from Medina to Jerusalem by himself with a servant, with no army, fearing no one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and without any of the appearance of a dignitary of the time, to go assume the keys of Jerusalem. It gets better. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he tells the servant, he says, listen, you and I are going to take turns. We're going to split this trip 50-50. You ride the camel 50% of the time, I ride the camel 50% of the time. So for half of this trip, Umar radiallahu anhu is going to pull in the desert the reins of this camel, while the servant sits on top. And they're going to take turns, because that was the adl, that was the justice of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As they are making this journey, Umar radiallahu anhu to Jerusalem, him and his servant, they start to get closer to Palestine. The servant, it's his turn to get on the camel, and Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu to pull based on the way that it was divided. Umar radiallahu anhu says, get on the camel. And he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, they're not waiting for me. يَنْتَظِرُونَك, they're waiting for you. They're not waiting for me. Like, come on, like, it's okay. I understand. I get it. It's already generous of you enough that you split this 50-50 for this entire journey. Umar radiallahu anhu insists. He says, get on the camel. I'm going to pull the rein. It's 50-50. We agreed. Half. And he said, honor is to the one who fulfills their trusts. So I don't care if people are waiting on me and they see me pulling a camel. Who cares? It gets worse. They're walking into Palestine, and Umar radiallahu anhu falls in a puddle of mud. Allah decreed it that way. So this white garment that already had 17 patches on it is now covered in mud. By the time Umar radiallahu anhu gets there, the people have lined the streets to watch the reception of the key given from the hand of the patriarch Sophronius to Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. This is right as he is about to make his entrance into Jerusalem. Some of the Sahaba come to meet him as he's about to come in. Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah radiallahu ta'ala anhu sees him, and he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, can you change? Can we get you some armor? Can we go buy you something? Can we put a helmet on you? He's starting to argue with him to say, why don't you wear something that's more befitting? Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu responds with the most famous answer that we have ever heard. We are a people who Allah has honored through Islam. When we seek it through anything else, Allah will humiliate us. If we seek honor through them, Allah will humiliate us. And there comes Umar radiallahu anhu walking into Jerusalem, still with the servant on his camel, with a white garment with 17 patches covered in mud.
Sophronius comes out of the gates to meet the Caliph because he sees the Caliph's army arrive. And as he's approaching, he sees a man leading a camel at the front of the army. So for the record, the rich Arabs, the Arabs who were good soldiers, didn't usually ride camels. They usually rode horses. In any case, the Arab army is being led by a man leading a camel with a man on the camel. So Sophronius, he's got a giant red hat, because he's also a cardinal, right? He's got gold tassels, actual gold, hanging from his hat. He's covered in gold jewelry. He's wearing red robes. He's covered in perfume. He's on a lectica. The lectica was the couch that the Romans would ride, and then they'd have like 4 or 8 men, depending how big it is, carrying it. And then he has 2 men, one on each side, fanning him. And he comes up to the guy on the camel, and he says, where's the Caliph? And the guy on the camel does like this. He nods with his head at the guy leading the camel. So Sophronius turns to the guy leading the camel and goes, where's the Caliph? And the guy leading the camel says, I'm the Caliph. And Sophronius goes, dude, you're dressed in rags. The guy's pants were mended multiple times. His shirt was mended multiple times. And he goes, no, I'm the Caliph. And Sophronius goes, you've just conquered Iraq and Syria and all of Palestine minus Jerusalem. How is it you're so poor? And the Caliph goes, well, why would I collect wealth? We're not doing this war because I'm trying to plunder anything. I'm a humble man with humble needs. I just need good meal. And then Sophronius goes, why aren't you riding the camel? And Omar goes, that's my servant on the camel, and we take turns so that neither one of us gets exhausted. At this point, Sophronius is like, oh, what? Who just conquered us? And so Sophronius gets off the lectica because he's shamed off of the thing.
And Sophronius, the patriarch, he says, to a man like this, Jerusalem is handed over. And Sophronius, the patriarch, he said to Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, with a leader like you, your people will never be defeated.
And he says, okay, I want to talk to you about our surrendering the city to you. And the Caliph says, I have an idea. Let's walk to the city and I'll tell you what I was thinking the terms would be. So we'll start there. And Sophronius goes, yes, of course. And as they're walking, Umar ibn Khattab says, why don't we do this? All Roman politicians leave Jerusalem. You just go, if you're a politician. And you can take anything you can carry. So you can take gold, as long as you can carry it. And Sophronius goes, okay. That's reasonable. That's actually more than reasonable. I just assumed you'd enslave them and take their gold. I don't see how anybody would be mad about that. And then what else? And the Caliph goes, oh no, I was thinking that's it. We don't do anything else. And Sophronius goes, wait a minute, I am really confused. So when us Romans capture a city, we enslave a segment, we plunder the city, probably a little bit too much raping too. We might even burn some of it, just for grins and giggles. And then we declare it to be ours. What about that? And Umar ibn Khattab goes, no, we're not going to do any of that. No plundering, no raping, no enslaving. We don't do that stuff. And then Sophronius goes, oh, but you're going to seize property in the city. And the Caliph goes, no, we're not going to take anybody's property. We're going to leave the city exactly like it is. Only thing I want to do is eject the Roman politicians with whatever they can carry. And Sophronius goes, there's nothing to negotiate. Yeah, we surrender the city this instant. I don't understand, actually. They walk into the city. Khalid is one of the men following. Amr ibn al-As. All these guys, they're on foot. If they've got their horses with them, they're leading their horses by the reins, right? Because the leadership is on foot. There's no way they're going to ride in. They're walking. And this is a holy city to them. Because Jesus is holy to them. Because the Jews were holy to them. And so they see this as a holy city. Sophronius goes, tell me about your religion as they're walking through the streets. And so Umar ibn al-Khattab starts telling him about Islam. Sophronius goes, it just sounds like a variation of Christianity. I feel like our religions are shockingly similar. And Umar ibn Khattab goes, yeah, because they are. I mean, we thought we were doing Judaism 3.0. It never occurred to us that we were going to be received as being so different. And he goes, okay, since you've given us such amazing surrender terms, and because I feel such kinship with your religion, will you do me an honor? Will you come to my church and pray in your Muslim way next to me as I pray in my Christian way? And Umar ibn Khattab goes, never. And Sophronius goes, why? He goes, I'm the caliph. The first place I pray in Jerusalem is going to become a mosque. The Muslims will take it and they will create a place of worship for Muslims, and you will lose it. And I don't want you to lose your church. And Sophronius goes, okay. What if we find an empty piece of Jerusalem and we just pray there? And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, yes, I accept. An empty piece. Something that nobody owns. So they go and they find an empty lot and they pray. The Archbishop in his Christian way, the Caliph in his Muslim way, side by side. It is a mosque today, that spot, commemorating the first place that the first Muslim Caliph prayed in Jerusalem. He nailed it. He knew what was coming. And he saved the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for Christians, because that's the church Sophronius wanted him to pray in.
Sophronius actually gives him the keys to the church. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu gives it to the Muslims, and Umar radiallahu anhu gives him a promise of its amana. This is one of the most beautiful things, subhanAllah, that till today, one singular family, a Muslim family, has held the keys to the holiest site in Christianity. Until today, every morning, a man from that family goes and opens that church for the Christians. There have been documentaries about this. The man today, his name is Adib Judah, who literally, a Muslim man, goes every day and opens the Church of the Holy Sepulchre for the Palestinian Christians to go and to access that church.
At that point, the Caliph says, I want to see the Temple Mount. And Sophronius goes, why? And the Caliph goes, because it's holy. It's holy to everybody. It's holy to Christians, it's holy to Jews, it's holy to Muslims. And Sophronius goes, nah, we haven't been treating it as holy to anybody. And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, what do you mean? And so Sophronius says, so after we tore down the second temple of Solomon, when we conquered Palestine, we turned the Temple Mount into a garbage dump to punish the Jews. And the Caliph goes, what do you mean? And Sophronius goes, yeah, there's like 500 years of refuse on that thing. It's just a garbage dump. And he goes, show me. They walk up to the Temple Mount, and the Caliph can't believe what he's looking at. He falls on his knees, and he begins clearing the garbage by his hands. His army sees their leader on his knees clearing garbage, and they run up and they start clearing the garbage themselves, and they clear the garbage off the Temple Mount. The Caliph goes, okay, I want to meet some of the Jews living in Jerusalem. And Sophronius goes, there are no Jews in Jerusalem. And the Caliph goes, what do you mean there's no Jews in Jerusalem? The city is holy to the Jews. How could there be no Jews? And he says, well, us Christians, we pretty much murder them every chance we get. We really hate Jews. In fact, in the war we just did against the Persians, the Jews sided with the Persians. And so we murdered 20,000 Jews in Jerusalem and completely purged the city of its remaining Jewish population. And Umar ibn al-Khattab goes, no, this is wrong. You can't do this. And so he turns to a convert to Islam, a Jewish convert to Islam, and he says, I need you to find me 80 Jewish families that were willing to volunteer to move to Jerusalem so we can reestablish a Jewish presence in this city. And that's how the Muslims conquered Jerusalem. And that's the stuff that's left out of your history book. Isn't that crazy? Because isn't that an amazing story?